Supply and demand. Supply and demand.
Kia ora everyone, it's Tristan here. I am a pop-up sommelier and a wine merchant. Welcome to this little spiel I'm going to have today on a little thing that's close to my heart. It's also quite a controversial topic, but it was also a catalyst that made me realize and discover how much I love wine, and basically has taken me on this journey, which brings me to this very point right now, and that is natural wine. So, natural wine. What is it? Isn't it like this new fad, like trend that's quite new? I'm gonna stop you right there, honey, because no, natural wine is not new. It is not a trend as everyone calls it. It is in fact the way wine was before there was demand for quantity and a consistent product. But also mediocre and imprecise winemaking, resulting in flawed wines, called for new and alternative methods to manipulate the wine and make it acceptable for sale and human consumption. For example, in the old world, there are there are producers who've been making wine this way slash naturally for centuries, but they never just really made a big deal about it. Maybe that was just because that was the way they made their wine, and I guess you could say it was kind of natural to them. So another thing I want to bring up is the Georgians, or the country Georgia. So no, not the state in the United States of America, but there's actually a country called Georgia, which is between Russia and Armenia. And for about 1,000 years, I think they're in their 1,002nd vintage, they have been making wine au natural. Yes, they've been making wine naturally for 1,002 years. So I can definitely say that natural wine is definitely not a new thing. I actually think it's pretty old school. What is all the fuss about natural wine? Well, given the time we live in, people are a lot more conscious about what they put in their bodies. Food allergies are more common, and there's also a greater concern towards the impact of the environment and sustainability. So buying natural products, they tend to make people feel better, they make people feel healthier, and that they are contributing to saving the planet. But is natural wine better for you? Well, just going back on what I said earlier, natural wine is typically wild fermented as opposed to cultured yeast. It's unfiltered, it's unfined, and it has minimal to no sulfur. But newsflash, sulfur is actually a naturally occurring product in the wine. So you're always going to get a little bit of sulfur, but as I said before, natural wine tends to have minimal, and in very rare circumstances, sulfur can be completely eliminated from the wine, but this takes extreme precision from the winemaker. I guess you could argue that natural wine is better for your health, but I don't think there's any solid proof. At the end of the day, natural wine and unnatural wine still have alcohol. They both have alcohol, and too much of that is always going to be bad for you. In regards to the planet, I think, yes, purchasing natural wine is better because you're contributing to producers who are working towards honest and sustainable winemaking. But more the question I ask myself when I drink a glass of wine is, what is this wine's story? Who was the winemaker? The viticulturalist? the people who pick the fruit, the person's feet who actually like mash the grape, because believe it or not, some producers actually still do that. And some people will argue that that's probably just a marketing thing, but no, I've seen it being done, and I have done it. Yeah, I mean, the person who drove the pallets to the dock to be put on the ship to be taken all over the world. I want to know all of that. And to me, if a wine has a good story, and obviously if it tastes good, then that's okay with me. The thing about natural wine that I love so much is no matter what, there always is going to be a story. And this is part of the reason I get so wrapped up in wine. I love the taste of good wine, but I love the history, the story, and the culture that surrounds it. It really is a beautiful thing. And when the wine has been made by a producer who's doing things naturally, for some reason, this is just so much more beautiful. And I can't even express it enough. I'm doing this thing with my hands, and I'm just, it's a beautiful thing. But really, why the sudden backlash and the hatred towards natural wine? Well, if you ask me, in my honest and humble opinion, I put it down to just the lack of understanding. It's simple as that. People don't really understand it. And a wise man once said, I think, people fear what they do not understand. I don't know who said that. I don't even know if anyone said it, but that is a philosophy or a saying I've always kind of agreed with. If you don't understand something, you're a bit worried about it and you get scared of it. And I feel like that's basically the reason there has been this backlash on natural wine. And in many New World countries such as New Zealand, Australia, and the United States of America, we have really become accustomed to these conventional styles of wine where every vintage and every bottle tastes and must taste the same, because that's what a lot of consumers want. They want to be able to go to the bottle shop, and buy the same wine they always do and have it taste exactly the same. And so when there's any point of difference, I feel like it does freak people out. And so this is where natural wine has probably got its backlash and a little bit of hatred towards it, because unfortunately with natural wine, you're not going to get consistency. Seriously, every bottle is going to be different. But also, in saying that, there are times where I've had a bottle of natural wine, and then I've had the same bottle, and they have been the same, but the actual consistency is not as consistent as, say, like a conventional wine. But why? Why is natural wine so inconsistent? Well, most of them are actually still living in the bottles. So you might have heard the term used by some people called living wine. So yes. Yeah, another newsflash, by the way. Wine is a living thing. And even more so with natural wine, because of the fact that they don't really add any preservatives or any other additives. So these wines develop in the bottle at a much faster rate than your typical conventional wine. Therefore, the shelf life and the aging potential is much shorter. Another reason for the backlash on natural wine is mediocre producers who try to bank on the term natural wine. Because let's face it, we've all bought into it. You've gone to the supermarket to buy a bottle of wine, or the bottle shop, or wherever you go to buy your wine. You'll see that it has organic or natural on the label, and you might buy that because it says it. So there are a lot of, as I was saying before, mediocre producers and big wig companies who are basically banking on this term making really, really shitty average juice and then just whacking a fancy label on it and just buffering it up with like copious amounts of marketing, and then it's sold. Sadly, yes, those wines actually sell. And unfortunately, this makes me really, really sad because there are a lot of really great producers out there who are making wine naturally and literally putting their heart and soul into this craft. But because of all these like mediocre sort of brands and producers who think they can just bank on the term natural wine, they're getting a bad rep. And it's like, they're just going, well, we can make the wine naturally, but basically all we have to do is just put the grapes in the vat and let nature do its thing. Yeah, you do that. But a good winemaker who's making wine this way has to be absolutely precise. And there is so much more care that needs to be taken when you're making wine this way. So I said earlier, natural wine is wine made with minimal intervention, but a winemaker who is on their A game will know when to intervene. And it's not about how much you intervene, it's more about when and why. Sadly, in the resurgence of natural wine, there has been a lot of terrible fucking juice put on the shelves. However, if you're willing to wade through all the crap, there is a lot of exceptional natural wines on the shelf. You just gotta talk to the right people and people who are passionate about the wine movement, the natural wine movement, because believe it or not, there actually is a movement. I'm not gonna say revolution, but when you do wade through all that crap and you find all of the amazing stuff that's out there, it is honestly the most beautiful thing. And as I mentioned earlier, most of these wines come with an amazing story. Natural wine is occasionally accused of being prone to and being riddled with faults. And it's true. When you aren't adding any preservatives to preserve the wine, well then yeah, it's gonna happen. So, absolute precision is key from the winemaker, and he or she needs to be on her A game. And if they are, then the wine is a beautiful wine of magical proportions. If not, faulty wine. So, as I said, winemaker has to be precise, has to be on their A game. If you do buy a natural wine and you don't want to drink it straight away, my recommendation is to store it in perfect wine cellaring conditions, which is anywhere between 10 and 14 degrees. It needs to be consistent though, and then somewhere with about 70% humidity. But this needs to be consistent. If you store your wine like that, it will just give it a little bit more shelf life. But bear in mind that because these wines typically have no preservatives, that their shelf life will always be shorter than a conventional wine. On another note, I've heard a lot of comments from natural wine haters, anti-natural wine people, who say that natural wine is an excuse for lazy winemaking. Which is funny because one could actually argue that a conventional winemaker who has had to physically, chemically, and or biologically manipulate a wine due to a boo-boo in the winery or just a bad crop / vintage could be considered lazy winemaking. And at the end of the day, a good wine comes down to obviously good fruit, but I solely believe it comes down to the actions of the people involved making it, that being the viticulturalist and the winemaker. But things such as a bad vintage due to climatic influences, which is completely out of the producer's hands. But these can be preempted, again, with that word that you're probably sick of now. With precision, these obstacles can be overcome to an extent. Natural wine, what is it? It is wine that has been made with minimal intervention. This includes the use of wild and indigenous yeasts. They are unfiltered and unfined, so they will always appear a little bit cloudy and on the hazy side, and they have minimal to no sulfite, sulfur, SO2, or sulfur dioxide. They are also a beautiful thing of magical proportions. If you're willing to take the plunge, take the journey, and just come in with an open mind, I guarantee you and I promise you, you will find something that is A-grade juice. Thank you very much for letting me just sit here and rant on and on about natural wine. I really do hope you all find this useful, insightful, maybe educational. I don't really like to get too technical. It's not sort of really the philosophy I'm trying to apply here with these videos. However, if you have any questions or would like to know more, or if you have any feedback, please Instagram message me at clapclapwine. So that's at clapclapwine. You can also view these videos over and over again if you want on YouTube at clapclapwine. Each word has a hyphen in between, by the way, and you can also message me and comment there. Any feedback is appreciated, and I'd appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you for listening to me rant on. Ciao.